So brings me to the question, you have been a center of controversies for the last many years. How did you manage being simple and resilient at the same time? It's a very lethal blend. So how did you manage being both?
So one of the things that probably I learned from my father was that one must always remain truthful, because, as he used to say, that truth has a way of coming out and falsehood also has a way of coming out. So you can't maintain a falsehood for long. And the other thing that he taught me was that, look, if you stand for the truth, if you stand for what is right, sometimes you will be asked to pay some price for it. But given your situation, it's not a price which will be unbearable. So, for example, during the emergency, he was asked by many people, are you not afraid of being sent to jail? You have fought this case against Mrs. Gandhi. So he said that, no, I'm not afraid of going to jail, but of course, even I have my limits. If some people were to take my family hostage and threaten to kill them, then maybe I would break or bend, but certainly not by the prospect of being sent to jail. So during the contempt case against me, when there was a serious prospect of my being sent to jail because of that case, my father said, how does it matter? I have been to jail. My father has been to jail during the independence movement, etc. So,
Jail became very casual.
Jail is not such a big thing to worry about. It's not the end of the world. So, you don't need to bother about that.
So you mentioned unbearable consequences. Yeah. So what do you think? Would it have been the same for somebody who's a first-generation lawyer? If a first-generation lawyer were to pick a path that you did, do you think it would be the same for them, or is it a different story?
Yeah, so I had a lot of privilege to be able to do what I have done. I came from a well-to-do family. I didn't have to worry about my living because I lived with my father. I shared my office with my father. Everything was paid for by my father, both at the residence and my office. So I could afford to do public interest cases pro bono without having to worry about making a living for myself. Young lawyers, by and large, are not so privileged to be able to do that. But if they work in teams together, I feel that they can still do a lot of public interest work, because one thing about public interest work is that if you do it properly, seriously, responsibly, it also gives you a good standing with the courts and the judiciary, and it also gives you good standing in the society, in the public. And therefore, some clients will come to you because of that exposure, but then you have to do it very carefully and in a very serious and mature manner. So there is, I know, a lot of public interest work so-called public interest litigation being done, which is not very responsible. Because in order to do a proper public interest litigation, you have to first think of what is it that you want the court to do. What is it that you want to ask the court to do? Then you have to consult all the best experts on that subject, all the best experts that you can find, that you can have access to, and only if you feel that you have got the best possible information and therefore a solution to the problem that you are seeking to redress through that public interest litigation, only then you should approach the court. So if you do it very responsibly, then over the years you get a lot of recognition from the courts, from the judges, as well as in the general public, and that brings you some people who come normal cases also which you don't need to do pro bono. So people can do that, but they have to work in teams. It's very difficult for any individual who's not starting out with the kind of privilege that I had.
So basically, it's not an absolute no. It's more like teamwork instead of doing it individually and independently. Sir, we have heard that, I don't know if this is the most appropriate choice of words, but we have heard that you're very reclusive in your life. So does that, if at all that's true, does that have anything to do with your experiences as a lawyer, the controversy that you were the center of? Has art helped you, find that solace that you didn't need to find that peace in other people? You generally confine yourself to art and artistic expression. Has art helped you?
No, I don't think I am particularly reclusive because firstly, I do a lot of interviews like this one on public issues. I give a lot of talks like yesterday in Lucknow or the previous Sunday in Bhopal, where I was addressing another group of lawyers. So I'm not reclusive as such, but yeah, I mean, I don't need to seek approval of society or of people in order to be happy or in order to do what I want to do. I am quite happy by myself also. But I do go out in public spaces quite a bit.
So did you have somebody in your life who you actually were inspired from, somebody who actually helped you be the person that you are today? Or is it a personality trait that has shaped you into the person that you are today?
No. Every personality trait is always shaped by various influences around you. So in my case, I had the good fortune of living or growing up in a large joint family. So we used to live in my grandfather's house in Allahabad, and there were 15, 20 people living in that house. Lots of cousins, lots of uncles and aunts who used to keep coming in and out, grand uncles, etc., who I interacted a lot with. So therefore, a lot of influences shape your life, and I'm sure that all these influences also shaped my life. But later on, when I became a lawyer, there were, of course, many inspiring people that I met other than my father, like Mr. Tarkunde was one of them, who I was quite close to. He was a very inspiring person. There was one Mr. Hardev Singh who started this Committee on Judicial Accountability. He was also an inspiring person. So there are many influences around you which shape you to be the person that you become. And I'm sure that all these people and influences shaped me.
So is there a particular person, some specific name that you'd like to talk about?
In my intellectual journey, for example, Bertrand Russell was one of the figures that I admired a lot, and I was influenced a lot by his writings on different issues. So initially, I spent about 7 years studying philosophy and thinking about philosophical problems. I was doing a PhD in philosophy of science at Princeton many, many years ago, before I became a lawyer. So in some ways, I can mention Bertrand Russell as having had a major influence on me. There was a physicist called Richard Feynman, who I also feel has had an influence on my way of thinking and so on. And of course, my father was always a major influence. My parents, both my mother and my father, were major influences in my life. But I don't think there was any single person that I can
Not a guru
think
per se.
of. No, I didn't have any guru.